In this video, we're taking a look at one of the features that we have available as part of our launch program. We're aiming to raise up to £80,000 before the end of the year, before we go live in January. This will help us to take on additional staff and set up offices and premises. In return for that £80,000, there are certain packages available. One is to actually be a stakeholder in our crowd centres. A stakeholder does not have shares. It is simply a financial stake in the development of the crowd centres. 10% of the income that we generate will go towards the stakeholders in proportion to the £80,000 we're open to raise. The 10% is guaranteed. It's 10% of sales revenue. So it's not reliant on profit. It's almost like there's a tax being paid on the people that are using the various services, the local businesses and organisations that are using the services. And that tax is being paid towards those who helped us to finance the launch of the crowd centre. So if we were to raise £800,000 revenue in a year, then 10% of that would be 80,000. Since our target income was 80,000, in effect for every £1 stake you placed, you will get £1 back. We anticipate for the North East alone to raise more than £1 million a year. So if we only had the North East centres, then you would get your money back every year. Let's take a look at what we're doing. So from the centres, we're going to start with the Sunderland Centre. Other videos will explain the content. Then we look at the North East Centre. Under the North East side, we've got the other 12 locations, or the other 11 locations of the North East, plus one for the North East. Each of these will be generating revenue. Revenue comes in two ways. One is membership of our local communications and advertising networks. They're dedicated to helping local businesses and local organisations reach more customers more often, more ways, more effectively, and do it for far less cost. The other way is sponsorship of the individual centres of our various pages. All of these are low costs. We're not in this to make a huge profit. We hope to make a healthy profit, but the idea is to create these centres that are for the benefit of everybody, including local businesses and organisations. So as I mentioned before, we anticipate that these centres alone should generate enough income to pay back your stake each year. On top of that, the North East represents only a 20th of the United Kingdom. We intend to grow these centres into all the other 20. So you could have 20, if we're making this kind of money from the North East alone, you could have 20 times the stake you made for each pound stake each year. On top of that are our general centres. So if I take a look at some of these categories, then under the general centre, you'll see some of the categories or potential crowd centres we have. So if I take a look at some of these, for example, the centres from A to F, then there's a business section. So there will be crowd centres based on specific subjects. I mean, these are just at a very general high level, but we can go down to a lot smaller level. So business could be, or different types of business, agricultural business, but we're starting off at the top level. So things like business, entertainment, finance, food and drink, etc. We'll be creating unique crowd centres for each of them. Again, there'll be there'll be businesses in the communication and advertising networks in each of them, and again, pages to sponsor. On top of that, there'll be crowd centres based on profile groups. So Christian community, this could be chess players, any kind of group of people that meet together under a particular common interest. So we'll be creating crowd centres for them. There'll be crowd centres for special occasions like Christmas, Valentine's Day, and so on. So all of these will be generating income. As a stakeholder, you will be getting your 10% of the content will go towards the stakeholder package. So you can see we believe that just in the North East alone you'll get your stake back. On top of that, the United Kingdom is 20 times larger. On top of that, there's all our general crowd centres. On top of that, there's profile centres. On top of that, there are specific days or special days. So lots of ways to generate income. We can't guarantee any of this, but hopefully you can see the potential. You are helping us launch and to grow these crowd centres, and you are getting what could be a very handsome reward in return. Again, as part of our launch package, Any stake that you put, and the minimum is 20 and the maximum is £10,000, anywhere in between, at any time in 2016 you can ask for your whole stake back and we will give it back to you, no questions asked.